Hello, it's Daryl at 10 Foot Truck, Good Attitudes Services. And today I'm doing DoorDash, Grubhub, and possibly Uber Eats, and maybe Roadie. It's a really nice day today. So finally, oh God, it hasn't been above, it's like 44 degrees right now. It hasn't been this warm since, God, sometime in November. I mean, it's really been freezing. I think it's been freezing and below freezing since probably around December 16th. So December 16th, January 16th. Yeah, for like 2 months it's been ice and snow, and the roads have been iced up and cloudy. And now the sun's out. It's 44 degrees. The snow is still kind of on the ground, but it's starting to melt, and it feels real nice. I feel the spring in the air, even though it's not close to spring yet. But I feel that the weather's changing back to to a nicer weather. Of course, I don't mind winter; it's fine. It's just much harder to do work, especially with my truck. So I'm looking forward to getting back into my truck this week. It's supposed to be in the mid 40s to the hovering around the mid 40s all week. So it'll be great to get out in the truck and make some good money. But for today, I'm just going to be doing the food delivery. I don't have any truck stuff lined up today. I have an ad up, but nothing yet. But hopefully by next week. Anyway, so like I was talking about before, I think I mentioned before inflation and why maybe some of the apps are a little bit slower. I'm not sure why. Of course, it's winter time, so they do slow down in the winter. But also, I just noticed today that I was watching a video where a guy was saying that that gas is up to $90 per barrel, which is hasn't been like that for at least 7 years, since like 2014. So that's going to affect all of us gig workers, all of us drivers, and regardless of what kind of driving you do, whether it's cab driving, food driving, truck driving, delivery driving, of any sort like that, is going to be impacting your bottom line, because of the gas prices that aren't going to go down. At least they're kind of just hovering around where I'm at. They're just hovering around the same. They haven't really gone up yet, but I'm wondering if because of that price, if it's going to start going up more. We'll see. And then of course inflation and all the other prices goes up. When fuel prices go up, everything goes up because of transport. Everything's transported in trucks and trains and planes, and that's all requires fuel. And so when the price goes up, of course everything goes up. And also fertilizer and things like that go up, and so food prices go up, etc. So I don't see inflation going anywhere. I know that they talked about the Fed, hiking up interest rates to kind of combat what's going on with inflation. I've also heard about something about price control or something like that. I'm not exactly sure what that is. Regulating prices, which seems a little bit ridiculous. I mean, they shouldn't be. I mean, I can understand certain things when people are gouging prices and stuff. They can, that can be, I can see how someone could step in, especially with monopolies and stuff like that. The government may step into that if something illegal is happening. But as far as like controlling prices of gasoline and controlling prices of, that are just normal prices that are basically react to economies and to supply chain and all that. We have a supply chain situation with cars right now that I hear is possibly going to. I've heard some videos about how the car chain, the chip shortage for cars may change not too far in the future, maybe within a year, because they're building new chip manufacturing places. But of course, those chip manufacturing places are going to require more chips to operate those computers and all that. So it's kind of a catch-22. So that might be not for a while. Once they can get the cars back on into lots and stuff, then maybe the prices will drop on cars. But so far, I haven't seen any drop in used cars, because I've been looking at trucks and vans, and it's pretty much, really high prices. I don't think you can get even an old truck for less than like $3,000 that runs, or a van maybe $5,000. So that's still up. Got to wait on that as far as purchasing another vehicle. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on. I do see a slowdown in purchases of especially for food delivery, because because the fact that inflation causes the people to to shrink their budget or to watch their budget. So unless they rely on food delivery. So hasn't been too busy, but I'm making a little bit of money, and I've noticed that now I'm having to go on DoorDash and schedule. I'm having to go on there and check schedules, and that's the only way I can really get on there and get decent orders for my schedule, which it wasn't like that before. Before you could kind of just go on and you would always see available orders most of the day, especially lunch and dinner. Now you really have to schedule, which is fine. That's what I have to do. And the other apps are kind of slow as well. And like the roadie tire deliveries, I haven't seen any of those recently, but I'm wondering if they're contracting with another company to do that, which is possible. Which I have to look into that, because I did enjoy doing that. And I haven't seen a lot of Home Depot deliveries lately, today or yesterday. So we'll see if I can get another one of those, because those are good pay. But so far it's okay. Just kind of doing what I can. The car's still running. My truck's still running. That's good. So I have to be grateful for that. But yeah, I think things are gonna be tough for a lot of people. So I'm trying to prepare. Figuring out what the budget is and how I'm going to market my truck and get that rolling again, because now we're coming around that time, around February, and then pretty soon it starts to take off. That kind of work for my delivery for my truck, for delivering for furniture and for moving furniture, and stuff from stores, heavy items and stuff, and construction materials. That starts to get busy regardless of what's going on. February, March, and April, and then throughout the summer. So it's been a rough winter. So that's I got to catch up on all that. So that's about it. I think I was looking into. I think I'm going to do another video, because I was looking at these articles about, because I noticed a lot of gig app people, workers lately on videos are very concerned about, or they're talking about self-driving cars and robotics. And there's been a lot of talk about that could wipe out the gig worker, that uses transportation, cars and stuff like that. Of course, we know that robotics have already taken over all automatic manufacturing, and robotics have taken over a lot of jobs in warehouses, especially like in Amazon. They still hire in Amazon to do work, but there's a lot of it's done by robots. Now, my experience with robots goes back a long time ago. The first time I, not like robots you see in movies, but robotic manufacturing or robotic logistics or warehousing, how they package and stuff. They or for like sorting things, they use robots. So they're not like human robots, but they're just machines. So my experience goes, probably the first time I ever noticed automation was when I was working, or I'd heard about automation that was coming in, was when I was working. This must have been in the 90s, like the early 90s. I was working at a cement factory, or not, I call it a cement factory. Basically, we were just bagging, it was like a concrete. I don't know what they did. It's so long ago. I think they were making concrete blocks and stuff, cement, or like, what do you call those? Cinder blocks and that kind of stuff for construction, because a lot of buildings back then, I don't know if they do that much anymore. They had a lot of cinder block buildings and that. So that was I was working there, and I was basically in charge, or where I was working in the department was, which we were bagging. We were taking the concrete mixed bags and then stacking them, and getting them prepared for shipment. And they were already developing and working on getting a system where this robotic machine would stack the bags. And that was way back in the early 90s. And then, so that was when I first started hearing about automated systems that ran. And of course, most manufacturing has become more and more automated. But I've never really worked in manufacturing. And it wasn't until later that I started working in composite, in a factory or in a company that developed composite materials. Like we made things out of fiberglass and Kevlar and resin in a mold. and we had to have a CNC machine to cut the parts and all that. And I remember that because my uncle both my uncles, with all my uncles were machinists back in the 70s, for Westinghouse and that thing, and they did most of the machining, by or tool and die or whatever you call it. They did it by hand, the math, and they did a lot of it by hand, and with machines that they would do by hand. Well, when I was working at the composite company, the CNC machine was completely automated. Not all completely automated, but it had a computer grid, and you could set it and run it by itself. So that was all computerized. And I remember my uncle, when he came to, because they needed a guy to run that machine who knew was a machinist. And I remember I invited him over to come there, and he looked at it, but he was like, it was completely out of his scope of understanding on machining, because he was used to doing it by hand. So that had changed. The machinist, and now of course we know that they have 3D printers and all that. So even that's changed. Another thing that I got involved with, I was working out that I saw robotics coming in, is when I was working for the library system, where for the shipping and receiving of library materials like media and all that, we would sort those up by hand, and for the different libraries, it was like 50 libraries we would sort out, and we would sort them and put them in boxes and sort them out for the trucks. Well, it wasn't, I don't know, it was a year or so into the job, they had a company that came in from Europe that developed a robotics system that would do all the sorting and everything for that. And it was amazing how they built this thing, and it was how fast it went and how fast it would sort out and put the boxes of, they had to use scanners and stuff. And that was back in 2002 or 3, I don't know, 2004, I'm not sure. So that was close to 20 years ago. So then I saw that system take one job turn into another job. And then years later, a friend of mine was working at a robotics company, and they were developing kind of similar systems where they would do packaging and palletizing and all that, and shrink wrapping, all this stuff all in one kind of robotic system and then load trucks. Would push the pallets into the trucks. And that was a while ago. So, and I remember getting invited to go in there, maybe possibly work there, and I decided not to, but I got to see the robots in motion. They're pretty interesting. They even had one with an arm that would load heavy bags. So it's been a while. It's been in our society for a long time, automation, robotics. So I'm sure that that's going to continue to go on into the future. Even like when I was working loading trucks at UPS, when I first started working there in the early 2000, I think it was 2000, 2001, when I started loading trucks for UPS. I remember it was all done by, we had to have a sheet, and we memorize all the addresses and the zip codes, or we memorized mainly the zip codes and where they would go. And that's how we loaded the trucks. When we get a package, we could look at the zip code, and we knew exactly where it was going to go on the shelf. So we had to do it all by memory, and we had to know kind of the map of the area. We had to memorize a lot of that. So it was kind of challenging, but you would learn how to do that. When you're sorting, you could just look at the zip codes and figure out where it's going, and you would look at the zip code and the address, and you could figure out what shelf was going to go, or what truck it needed to go to. As I was there, a couple of years later, they changed it into completely scanning, using the UPC or whatever codes and scan codes, and putting a computer system, and everything was just scanned. So you didn't even have to know the zip code or the address. You would just see the label it would scan it, and it would have a label of where it was going to go. So that simplified that job, made it much easier. And that's probably even different now, because I think they're probably by now, that was a long time ago, they have even a more sophisticated system of loading trucks to make it faster and more efficient, because Amazon, of course, does that very efficiently. So I could see how people can be concerned that, that automation and robots, eventually you're going to get into the delivery systems as far as the actual driving. And here's something interesting. Maybe I'll look it up later on. I'll do a video about it, because I have to look at the article. But I did see an article not too long ago where there was a company that was going to be putting self-driving trucks in Arizona, going from Phoenix to Tucson, and they were going to run them without people, just by just an automated truck. So, and that's supposed to be coming up real soon. I don't know when. I'll have to look up the article and see when that's going to happen. So it's already starting. The thing that I think about delivery, though, where it may not really get involved with for a while, is actually, but I know that according to Elon Musk, just mentioned in some article I saw where he's talking about humanoid robots, which would be arms and legs and all that, that he's working on a project to do humanoid robots, and it was going to be extremely important, more important than his Tesla car company, electric company. And we know that Tesla cars actually do self-drive. So he's already talking about humanoid robots, but I've read other articles saying that that's extremely challenging because of all the programming and software they have to implement into these humanoid robots to actually make them perform, complicated tasks. For instance, like if there's a self-driving car and it has a humanoid robot in it, and the car can make it to the address through the GPS, but then this humanoid robot has to take, the bag and maneuver, sometimes like, for instance, and where I live, we get a lot of ice and snow. You have to be very careful when you're getting out of your car. If something's not clean, like the driveway or the street or there's really hard ice on their walkways, you have to be extremely careful in how you approach that walkway. If you just to get there without slipping, and you just be very careful. There's ways of walking, or you can put things on your feet. But robots, that's something they have to concern about. Weather, different ways how the land is, stairs, maneuvering weights and with the stair, all these things that they have to program into the robot. It's very sophisticated and I would think, very expensive, and takes a lot of engineering. So I don't see that happening very soon, but who knows? Really, we don't know, because I don't know anything about engineering, about that kind of stuff. So it may already be happening. I don't know, but that would be ultimately what would happen. That would take those type of jobs away. Is that the self-driving car and an automated humanoid robot, which would do the labor, which is like lifting the bags or whatever. Or say, for instance, and I've thought about this years ago, as a delivery person, and with my truck, I deliver heavy furniture and things. I've delivered everything from big giant gun safes, refrigerators, couches, armoires, pianos, God, really, really heavy stuff, display cases and things, glass tables that are like, huge glass tables that are so heavy you don't like rip your hands off when you're picking them up. Big conference tables. I did a table that was like, God, it must have been 8 feet long. Yeah, it was 8 feet or maybe a little bigger, and it was like this conference table made out of glass and wood, and it took 4 guys to get it upstairs. So I've done this stuff, and I'm like thinking, well, if they have these automated robots that know how to do that are programmed to lift, to move things around, and of course, they're gonna have a lot of strength. That would be interesting to actually buy something like that as a second man instead of hiring somebody, because when you think about hiring people, you have to deal with a lot of, I've hired people, I've had people on crews, and you deal with a lot of drama sometimes, a lot of personal issues. And if it was a programmed robot, you wouldn't have to deal with that. You wouldn't have to worry about food and all that. So that's interesting, but I don't know. Like that movie iRobot, that's kind of like what they were doing. They had the delivery guys, or like automated robots and all that. But we'll see. I would think it's probably going to happen sometime in the future. If they're always talking about it and they're working on it, and Elon Musk is working on it, I would assume that somewhere down the line it's probably going to be part of the future, but part of the world. But how soon that's going to happen? I've heard people say 2 to 5 years, which would create a lot of problems for truck drivers and people who work in labor, and I've even seen robots that are training to do construction and using a drill and all that, so do drywall and all that. So I would think eventually a lot of these jobs, I guess, if it happens, we'll see, is going to create a shift in the labor force and how people approach labor and that. But that'll be interesting. Anyway, I'll look more of those. I'll do another video where I can look up some of those articles and I can read them, because I'm just kind of going off the top of my head of what I've seen. And I don't have the article in front of me to like refer back to what it said. But overall, and kind of like a synopsis, it's really talking about how they're planning on automating a lot of our transportation type jobs and that. So it's something to think about, because if you're doing this kind of work, you know, you want to have that in the back of your mind. If you start to notice things change like that, you know, you may have to, you know, do certain things in your business or however you work to keep your business going when these things are, you know, changing like that. I mean, look at the cab drivers like Uber. Now, I think cabs are still around, so they didn't really take all cabs, but there was a large amount of cab drivers that lost or had to go into Uber, or they lost a lot of their business, or they had to remarket their business because of Uber. So yeah, I mean, it does change things. So, you know, people should pay attention to that. I pay attention to it on the news and see what's happening because, you know, we all have to make a living. So anyway, I think I'm done with my rant. I'm going to turn on the app, maybe see what I can get. But hope it's all well for you guys out there. Drive safe. That's another thing. Just when you're doing these delivery apps, just, you know, be careful out there on the road. It's you know, concentrate on your driving. That's what I do. I focus on my driving. All right, Good Attitude Services on, and 10-foot truck. 10-foot truck's my truck business. Good Attitude Services. I over encompass whatever else I do delivery. I call it Good Attitude Services. So that's about it for today. Maybe I'll do another video this weekend, or it's already the weekend. Have a good weekend. I think it's tomorrow the Super Bowl. I don't know. I don't watch football that much, so maybe it is. If it is, there might be good for delivery, but so maybe it's a good time to make money. All right, have a good one. Bye.